Hi, this is Ellen from the Chili Dog, and today I'm working on a pair of fingerless mitts like these. And I've just finished up the thumb gusset of my mitten, which is this little side area right here. And now I need to move the gusset stitches over because I'm not going to work the thumb until later. Now I just want to continue on and work the top part here of the mitten. So let me show you what I've got so far. So here's my mitten. I've got the cuff, and as you can see, like I said, here's the gusset stitches. And some knitters like to hold the gusset stitches. You can use a stitch holder like this one. I find that when I move the stitches from a gusset onto a stitch holder like this, sometimes it makes it hard to knit the remainder of the mitten. So instead, I prefer to actually just slide the stitches onto a plain old piece of waste yarn. Nothing too exciting. So to do that, we're just going to knit across until we get to the gusset. So I just have a few stitches to work here. And right now I have markers on either side of the gusset, but it's also pretty easy to see. So when I get here to the marker, I'm just going to remove my stitch marker because I don't need it right now. And then I'm going to slide those gusset stitches right onto a piece of waste yarn. And just remember to either insert your needle if you're using waste yarn or your stitch holder. Just insert it purlwise through the stitches and make sure you're going through the center of the stitch and not piercing the yarn at all. And then later when you are knitting the thumb, it'll make it easy to move these stitches back onto knitting needles. So there's the first part of my gusset stitches. And I have just a couple more here. And another stitch marker, and I'm just going to drop this stitch marker off too. And all your stitches are held nicely there and out of the way. And I'm going to take my needle off also because I don't need it anymore. So now before you can continue knitting the hand, you actually need to cast on one single stitch in between where the gusset used to be. And to do this cast on, you actually use what's called a backwards loop cast on. Let me get this waste yarn out of the way. So you take your working yarn and you're going to put your thumb behind the working yarn so that your thumb is pointing down. And then just gradually rotate your thumb so it's pointing up. Take your knitting needle and you're going to lift it under this front strand that's on your thumb. And then you can pull your thumb out. And you can see here that that makes a nice little twisted loop. And all you have to do is just pull the working yarn and it just tightens that loop right up. And that is your one cast on stitch. And casting on that stitch helps prevent there being a gap later in this little V part of between your thumb and your hand. So then you would just continue working around your glove. And let me show you what I mean here. So here is the same glove. And like I said, I knit across to where the gusset is. I slid my gusset stitches onto my waste yarn, and that makes this nice little hole where my thumb will be able to go through later. Cast on one stitch and then continue working across. And from this point, you would just continue working around and around. And what you're doing is you'll be working this top part of the mitten. And then I'll be back in another video and show you how we can finish off this top part of the thumb. And there's a little trick there too that helps prevent there being any funny gaps in this V of the glove. So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about how to shape your gusset, and I'll be back soon. Until next time, Happy knitting!